So for those folks viewing this class a little later, we're sitting in meditation as we wait for the Sangha to gather. And welcome. Welcome to those who are joining us through Facebook. We are deep into the study of the 7 points of mind training, or Lojong. This is a classic compassion training that has been used for centuries to develop the open heart mind. We'll sit a few more minutes contemplating Gampopa as we come together. All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. As earth and the other elements, together with space, eternally provide sustenance in many ways for the countless sentient beings, so may I become sustenance in every way for sentient beings to the limits of space until all have attained nirvana. As the Sugatas of old gave birth to the bodhicitta and progressively established themselves in the training of a bodhisattva, so I too, for the benefit of beings, shall give birth to that bodhicitta and progressively train myself in that discipline. At this moment, my life has become fruitful. I have realized my human life. Today, I am born into the family of the Buddhas. Now I am a child of the Buddhas. From now on, I will forthrightly perform the actions befitting my family. I will act so as not to degrade the faultlessness and discipline of my family. Just as, with a blind man finding a jewel in a heap of dust, Thus, somehow, bodhicitta has been born in me. This is the supreme Amrita which destroys death, the inexhaustible treasure which removes the world's poverty. It is the supreme medicine which cures the world's sickness, the tree which provides rest for beings weary of wandering on the paths of existence. It is the universal bridge on which all travelers may pass over the lower realms, the rising moon of mind which dispels the torment of the kleshas. It is the great sun which puts an end to the obscurity of ignorance, the pure butter which comes of churning the milk of the holy Dharma. For travelers wandering the paths of existence, seeking happiness from objects of enjoyment, it is supreme bliss near at hand, the great feast which satisfies sentient beings. Today, witnessed by all the protectors, I have welcomed the sentient beings and Sugatas, Devas, and Asuras rejoice. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. So, welcome. Good to see everyone. I'm just working with technical things. We are at the last group of slogans in the disciplines, the last group of the don'ts. For the last few weeks, we have been hearing about don't be ill-tempered in many kinds of ways. Don't be hateful, mean-spirited. Quite a few don'ts. And just to say, if you recall, we started with why would we want to enter the path? What are the preparations? What is the view of where we are going? What is bodhicitta, this vast mind of heart, vast heart of love and compassion and kindness that is boundless, not excluding any living being? And then these are some of the practical steps of putting that into action by refraining from old habits of confused behavior or behavior that is hurtful to others. And now we're down to just plain pettiness. I had a sense of humor as I was thinking about the slogans today, saying, well, really, what is this focus on pettiness and how important is that? I'm putting them into the chat room, the group that we're working with today. It's slogan like 35, 36, 37. Some we took in a slightly different order. And in the text I was reading, they were expressed in a way that I think that was also very helpful, not so much in terms of the don'ts. We're working with 3 today. Don't transfer the ox's load to the cow. Very old-fashioned. Don't act with a twist. And don't seek others' pain as the limbs of your happiness. So we could deal with them, in a quite straightforward way, and I will, but also to look from the perspective, all right, we've worked with, so many layers. Why are we moving down to pettiness? And what is um, the the point? We've really looked at those things many times, and there is a wonderful example. Um, the example is, if you are a well-trained horse rider, when you get into the rocky mountainous terrain, you don't lose your seat. And even a well-trained horse rider, when they're on even terrain, if they're distracted, they can fall off the horse. So essentially, these three are saying, yes, they're not the biggies, but it's not only the time that you're in a rage wanting revenge that you have to have the Dharma immediately at your fingertips to prevent very destructive behaviors, but it's also those times when you get careless, when you're slightly relaxed about things, that, these subtle layers of minor faults disrail you. All of a sudden you've lost it and you didn't even know how it happened. So the don't transfer the ox's load to the cow essentially is about personal responsibility. If you see that the blame for your action is mistakenly given to someone else, that's transferring your load to someone else. If you use your charisma or magnetism to get others to do things for you, it's transferring your load to the cow. And if you sort of manipulate a situation, so we may have been in the situation where we're in a group and somebody has to confront the boss's bad behavior, somebody has to speak up, and you just sort of let somebody else in the group take that role because you have a faltering of courage. So we probably all have been in that situation. Yes, you go tell them to do that. You right that wrong. I'll be right behind you, but it's really a faltering of courage. Then if we look at the don't act with a twist, that's having sort of an ulterior motive for your behaviors. Like if I'm at, often in the Tibetan tradition, we're at a big gathering and there are these big acts of generosity. So if you're making all of these donations to the Sangha and you're contributing all the food to the Sog, but in the back of your mind, oh, I'm going to look really good doing this. Everybody's going to admire me. That's acting with a twist. And then don't seek others' pain as the limbs of your own happiness. All we have to do is look at politics. Would you be rejoicing if Hillary or Trump were indicted tomorrow? Doesn't matter which side you're on. Somebody else's pain is the source of your happiness. Politics is such an easy example with that. But I want to bring all of this into the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is expressed as, yes, we've just gone through all of these don'ts, but what we're saying with all of the don'ts is be capable of all. Not only be capable of all, but don't be sporadic in your practice. So we're looking at the overall teaching is continuous mindfulness, and that with continuous mindfulness, we start to see the smallest thoughts that can start to distract us into either becoming self-aggrandizing or self-cherishing or in our bubble, as opposed to truly thinking of others and wishing for the welfare of others. And in order to have this pervasive and continuous mindfulness, we need all of the trainings. So the encouragement to don't be sporadic is to see that all of the different trainings have aspects of confusion that they address. And it's the fullness of all of the trainings that allow greater and greater perspective on that continuous mindfulness. So Atisha, one of the great teachers, said it's just like pulling the rug up by lifting all four corners at once. So for instance, the door of the Dharma that I entered was through the compassion trainings. I really wanted to see, when we're in difficult situations, how do we keep the fortitude of a compassionate mind that never burns out? That's something that I could see in the example of the Tibetans, and I said to myself, I really want to learn about that and to know how you get that great heart mind. And maybe the first 10 years I wasn't particularly interested in philosophy. So philosophy would be a different corner, and someone who's a scholar might enter from that doorway. And even in terms of philosophy, there were areas of philosophy like the studies in logic. I was going, well, I don't know about that. I really, want to hear about compassion. But then as I went deeper and deeper, I saw, oh, you need that logic to dispel a confusion that really blocks a core belief about the nature of reality. And then, there are some folks, I really love retreat, but there are some folks who might say, well, going to all these teaching is enough, studying is enough, practicing compassion, looking at conduct is enough. I don't need solitary retreat. So that would be another corner. And now I'm going to talk about 5 corners. So, the whole understanding of ethics as being aware of karma. There are some folks who think, I just want to sit in meditation. I don't want to study ethical conduct. My conduct's really good enough. And so, if we have this sporadic view of the Dharma and leave out critical areas of study, our mindfulness is only attuned to a part of the pervasive considerations. And really, the significance of retreat is, it's said that no human being is able to watch their thought and their conducts with this pervasive mindfulness unless they're in retreat with no material concerns. So the food is there, the perspective of having studied is there, the roof on the hut doesn't leak, and then sitting with no concerns whatsoever, one can get to the minus detail of thought by thought by thought, underlying motivation, any little distraction arising from samadhi. And so each of these trainings has a really important component. And, when I think of, for instance, the morning prayers that we did, the Bodhisattva prayer comes from Shantideva, that beautiful poetry, the tree that is a rest for the weary, the bridge over the lower realms. And if I think of Shantideva's life, he stayed in his room at the monastery for years in that supported retreat, and really looked at, if I step 1 foot out of the door, do I lose my mindfulness? For those of you who were here for the study of his training manual, If I see one little ulterior mode of entering, the acting with a twist, if I see one little point of distraction, if I see, oh, my motivation really is about me, not about suffering beings, act like a log. So his instruction to act like a log is essentially that one can be so aware that then as we move into the world with our vast open heart mind, we see when we falter, we see when our courage is a little less than the strength we might like. We see when we're about to step on a little bug that's crossing a path. We're aware of the states of emotions of everyone we're interacting with, and we're thinking about, oh, can I lift and support this person's heart? Can I lift and support all sentient beings with all aspects of my conduct? So I want to close this investigation of the guidelines that are don't, with this beautiful summary of be capable of all. Be the well-trained horse rider that knows what to do when we're in a rage, what to do when we're in the course of addiction, and also knows what to do when we're intimate with our friends and a little gossip comes up, or intimate with our friends and we start sarcastic teasing, or alone in the room and we see, the news, and, we see, someone who's been quite harmful, ready to be tried and imprisoned. So whether we're alone or in a group, that pervasive mindfulness looks at both the big things and the smallest things, and we sit like a log until we can move forward. So, of course, we can't stay in retreat forever, but it's really Shanti Deva's instruction to see how quiet you have to be to nurture strength, and then allow that strength to become unshakable. And then with that unshakable strength, we are truly bringing benefits to others. So the next group of slogans, were at 38 out of 58. So the next group of slogans actually bring everything together. How does the view, the conduct we're committing to, meet with the fruition, or where we're heading? And it is a lifelong process. So Lord Jigten Sumgun, the founder of the Drikung Kagyu, would say over and over again, if one doesn't understand complete mindfulness, one doesn't understand meditation. So we really see with the slogans so far, this is bodhicitta, relative and ultimate. This is where we're going. These are the philosophical guidelines we need to understand. These are the conduct guidelines we need to understand and commit to without becoming discouraged. We're encouraging honesty because honesty is seeing. The mindfulness is seeing. And then with that seeing, with that commitment that doesn't become discouraged or turned inwards into shaming and blaming inwards, doesn't turn outwards, shaming and blaming others, but meets life with, this moment is my opportunity to come closer to my Buddha nature. And if I am not able to meet this moment, I see it, understand it, and look to see what resources I need to gather so that when it occurs again, I can allow my behavior, my habitual patterns to soften and have the space to respond in a different way. So let's give this some time for reflection, either today's slogans or the group of slogans that essentially are under taking responsibility for all of one's actions, not blaming others, and looking to see where is our confusion in the situation. And with mindfulness, moving again. Let's sit with this. So we're a small group this morning. I'm going to open up discussion, but first I'll close the live and the recorded so you can feel you have privacy as we discuss things. Bodhicitta, excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.